Brandis, in what would be a typical day of reporting on the upcoming inauguration festivities, today is anything but normal. Tens of thousands of troops are guarding the Capitol, which is currently in lockdown. This as President Donald Trump is reportedly doling out dozens of 11th-hour pardons. Here to talk about ongoing safety concerns and much more are Congressman Mike Quigley, a Democrat from Chicago, Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi, a Democrat from Schaumburg, Congresswoman Cheri Bustos, a Democrat from Moline, and Congressman Rodney Davis, a Republican from Taylorville. Welcome all of you back to Chicago tonight. Congressman Davis, as I understand, you were walking around near the stage at the Capitol today. Just give us a sense of what the atmosphere is like right now.
You know, the atmosphere is really no different than previous inaugurals when I've been out there for sound checks of some of the musical talent. It's great to see them. Everybody's excited. The only thing that's different, there are just not a lot of chairs down on the terrace or out on the lawn because of the pandemic and because of the reduced attendance.
And Congressman Krishnamoorthi, as I understand, you were interfacing today with some of the members of the Illinois National Guard that are guarding the Capitol. What was that interaction like?
Oh, it was excellent. I was so proud to be with them. There are about 250 to 300 guardsmen and women from Illinois. They take time off their jobs, away from their families and their businesses to be at the Capitol to guard the inauguration, and they are doing a fabulous job. It's just too bad that we actually need their help this year, but unfortunately that is, the repercussions of January 6th. Hopefully we can get to a better place after this, security-wise.
Congresswoman Bustos, are you confident that tomorrow's inauguration can be carried off routinely and safely, given just the enormous national security concerns and the tension in the country right now?
Well, when Raja just mentioned the 300 or so guardsmen and women from Illinois, that is part of the 25,000 National Guardsmen and women who are here. I also walked around this morning, about 6 o'clock this morning, and we have razor wire over the fencing. Again, the 25,000 National Guardsmen and women. That's on top of the Capitol Police, the Secret Service, the Metropolitan Police Department from Washington, D.C. Yeah, I feel like every contingency plan is out there. We were briefed, members of Congress were briefed earlier today by Capitol Police and by the Sergeant at Arms. And I think they have thought of everything they can think about. And so I'm going into this with a celebratory feeling, very, very excited that Joe Biden will be President Biden and Kamala Harris will go down in history as our first female to be vice president, first woman of color also to be vice president. So very, very excited about tomorrow.
And earlier today, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said President Trump is to blame for that Capitol mob on January 6th. Take a look at that.
The last time the Senate convened, we had just reclaimed the Capitol from violent criminals who tried to stop Congress from doing our duty. The mob was fed lies. They were provoked by the president and other powerful people.
So know in certain terms who Senate Majority Leader, soon-to-be Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, who he's blaming for what happened 2 weeks ago. Congressman Quigley, we've heard reports about at least a dozen National Guard members relieved of duty, concerns about possible sympathies with extremist groups. Are you concerned about any possibility of some sort of plot from within, even though the Defense Department says they have no evidence of that thus far?
Look, I agree with Cheri. I think that they've done a good job taking care of all those possibilities. There's never zero risk involved with this, and we sign up for that. Democracy isn't easy, but as concerning as all that is, we move forward tomorrow. We think of the inauguration, in Lincoln's words, as a new birth each time we do it, and that's what I'm going to be thinking about tomorrow.
And Congressman Davis, I do want to go back to 2 weeks ago. I mean, it was an extraordinary experience for all of you, but you were one of the 4 electoral vote readers later that night after the chaos had gone down. We haven't talked to you since then. Give us your reflections of everything you experienced that day, capstoned by reading off the electors.
It was the second most terrifying experience I've had as a member of Congress. The first, obviously, was running from bullets on a baseball field a few years ago. But we all came together. We did our job, and that's the job that's set out in the 12th Amendment to certify the electors that come in from the state. I was honored to be able to stand there and read off the electors of certain states. And I got a chance to talk to the vice president, my colleague, Speaker Pelosi, and others about what do we do afterwards. And I think that's what's going to define this Congress is how do we respond, and do we do it in a partisan way or do we do it in a bipartisan way?
Congressman Krishnamoorthi, we've heard the news of more arrests for their involvement in the plot on January 6th. Have you learned anything more about why there was such a breach, why the Capitol Police didn't have adequate backing, why, despite all the intelligence about activity, there weren't adequate precautions taken?
We don't have definitive answers yet, Paris. I think that there are investigations at different stages of law enforcement and in different federal agencies. But what we know is that, unfortunately, even when they called for reinforcements, they didn't get them. That's one of the most troubling aspects of that whole episode on January 6th. When they needed help, it took almost 3-4 hours for them to get help from the National Guards and from the White House and others. Thankfully, they did arrive and were able to clear the Capitol. But that was one of the biggest question marks and failures of the day. The other big issue is we still have many of the leaders on the loose, even today. There are hundreds of criminals on the loose, and we've got to bring them to justice and hold them accountable.
Congresswoman Bustos, one of your colleagues, a Democrat from, I believe, was it New Jersey? No, Tennessee, was saying that he had seen another one of your colleagues, Republican Congresswoman Boebert from Colorado, leading a tour with a group just days before that Capitol riot. Even we should mention there's no allegations, there's no accusations, no knowledge of anything improper there. Have you heard about that, and what's your thought on that?
Yes, I have heard about that, but I can't confirm it, and I would be very uncomfortable confirming anything that I don't have deep knowledge of. I think we need something along the lines of a 9/11 style commission, or, going back to, President Kennedy's assassination, a Warren style commission, where we get to the bottom of this. I mean, it is that serious. This was an attack on our Capitol. It was an attack on our democracy. Worth noting that democracy did prevail. To the point that Rodney made earlier, we came back in session. We did certify and verify the Electoral College vote, but we've got to get this figured out. There are allegations that there were members of Congress who were escorting members of this crazed mob around our House office buildings. And, if there was indeed, I mean, this you can prove by looking at social media. There was a member of Congress who was sending out social media announcements of where that Speaker Pelosi had left the floor. Now keep in mind, we have at least 2 members in the U.S. House of Representatives now who are QAnon enthusiasts. So there's got to be a deep look at this. What were the involvements of anybody on the inside? And let's get it figured out to make sure that something like this never happens again. It was a devastating day on a personal level, but certainly as, the longest serving democracy in the history of the world, this was devastating.
And no question about that. We're going to continue talking about this in just a bit. We'll be joined again by the Congress members to discuss President Trump's impeachment later in the program. But for now, our thanks to Representatives Mike Quigley, Raja Krishnamoorthi, Cheri Bustos, and Rodney Davis.